All right, so we are live. This is Kim Andrysczyk with the South Carolina Homeschooling Connection. I am the self-appointed busybody of homeschooling in South Carolina, and we have gone live by surprise today to talk to you because we are getting lots of questions from people who are trying to start homeschooling here mid-year, and they're switching. And what do I do? How does this work? What do I do with the records? How do I start over and pick up the pieces and move on from here? So hopefully some people will get notification that we are here, but the recording will be available for people to watch later. And so we're going to chat today with Lara Caldwell, who is with the TSCHAA Accountability Association, and talk to her about her expertise and advice in helping homeschoolers too. So, welcome. Thank you for coming and joining me.
Thanks for having me. I hope we can answer some questions today.
So so we don't really have an outline or anything. We just have an informal chat. So one of the things that I get questioned about a lot is how am I supposed to do the attendance? Because that's one of the record keeping requirements that we're supposed to do. So when you start mid-year, the law says 180 days. So what happens? How do I get in all my 180 days now if I'm starting mid-year?
Yeah, you start with the day you left your legal schooling. So if you were in public school and you withdrew them at 90, your first day of homeschool is 91. And then you just start counting forward. So as long as the child was legally schooling, you can count any of those days towards your 180. So if you're withdrawing right now, you only have 90 days left. Aren't they at about 90 days?
Yeah. Somewhere along in there. All the districts vary a little bit, so it's hard to say exactly.
So yeah, you don't lose the days you've earned already. So just start there and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about it, because the law says 180 days, but that's if you're homeschooling for the whole year. We're supposed to document an equivalent to the compulsory attendance days. So if you start in compulsory attendance and then you leave compulsory attendance, you're only responsible for whatever's left, and you start counting those days. And so I always say everybody's a part-time homeschooler before they come anyway. So
absolutely.
There's 185 other learning days in the year, because we learn 365 days a year, but we're just I've done the math before.
Okay.
Carry the one, regroup. But we're only responsible to document the 108 equivalent to whatever is the compulsory attendance days. And so that does help a little bit. So what about the rest of the record keeping stuff that we're supposed to do then?
In terms of what you're keeping up with?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you're going to track your attendance. You are going to keep up with lesson plans and samples of student work. And we are required to have semi-annual progress reports. And when you're in school, chances are you've already gotten one at 90 days if you're just now withdrawing. So there's your first progress report. You're only required to have the end of year progress report to show the full year's worth of assessment. So those are did I leave anything out? I think that was everything.
Yeah.
The required courses, English, math, science, and social studies, but you're just keeping up. Doesn't have to look like the teacher's records. You're just documenting what you're doing, how they're learning, how they're going, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. That mid-year progress report, though, I always say with homeschooling that mid-year assessment is really a reflection of what's working and what's not working.
Right.
We've kind of already done that mid-year assessment and go, something's not working. And that's homeschooling now. It's much more natural than I think we, work it up to be, that we've got to figure out how to write a report card or something. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a report card at the end of the year. It could be just a paragraph, a summary of look at all we've accomplished, and kind of just give yourself that kind of touchstone of what you've accomplished and what you'd like to refocus and work towards next. Set your goals.
And I had members actually submit sample ones that I put on my website, so I can drop that link at the bottom. But you'll see that some look like a public school and some are these beautiful paragraphs of their learning experience. And there's lots of choices.
Yeah. That would be nice to see examples. Good. And so those are the legal requirements. So the attendance, the record keeping, and the law wants somebody to verify that you're doing those record keeping requirements. You got to pick an association, get registered somewhere, and they will help you get, officially withdrawn from the school, so they don't keep counting you absent. So.
Right. So once you join the association, most of them give you a compliance letter, and you'll give that to the school. That shows proof of homeschooling, and then they will formally withdraw you. So don't leave that step out of formally withdrawing. But usually that includes a records release, and they'll either give it to the parent or send it to the association.
And the records, honestly, are really stuff that you've already seen before. It's
English report,
your birth certificate, your vaccine records, the water bill to prove that you really live where you say you do.
And so then unless it's high school and you want a transcript, but you just want to make sure they withdrew you.
That's the kind of stuff that they've got in the records. But the schools want, oftentimes, in order to officially withdraw a student, they want to send the record somewhere. So they'd have boxes they have to check off and know they did it. That way. I think it's more about that. Did we forget to withdraw somebody?
Yeah. And I always tell my members, I say, now make sure you ask them, do you need anything else? Because I've had some go in, hand the compliance letter, and they're like, thank you. But then they're waiting for me to send the exact same letter to them. So just make sure that your child is withdrawn before you get too far away.
Right. Because you're the official that's in charge of it. But then the schools don't always understand that. They're waiting to speak office to office with another school. Exactly. But you don't actually accept members right now mid-year. Your registrations are closed. So but there are a number of you're full. There's a number of associations that do accept mid-year students, whether they're coming from out of state or just from another school. So I
know they're looking out for new members, so they try to take care of them really quickly so they can remove you from the school as soon as possible.
So, so let's talk about, now we're withdrawn from the school. We understand what the legal requirements are. Now what?
I say
what do I do tomorrow now?
I say do nothing. Let your child sleep in. Take some time, and they call it deschooling, and just be. If you want them learning, read a book, take a field trip, watch documentaries, learn life skills, but just let them have some time to relax and just enjoy themselves and just decompress, because you kind of have to give them a chance to change their schedule and just refocus on changing how the learning is going to happen. And it gives you times to adjust and get to know each other again, because they spend most of their days at school and now you're going to have them all day. So I say just have some fun and relax and just be.
Right. The schedule that you do for learning is entirely different than what a normal school day. If you just try to take school and replicate it at home, school at home, you'll find out it doesn't work very good. You're going to be butting heads and everybody's going to melt down in tears.
I know there's no way, because I used to teach, as did you, there's no way we could have done that same mindset with our homeschools. It's just not the same.
No. No, it doesn't work. But you can facilitate learning in a different way. You can also, part of the deschooling process is retraining your own thinking. I think the parents are the ones that have to deschool and change their mindset of, I have to sit down and I have to tell this kid this and this and this and this in order for them to learn. We have to force kids to learn. What if we step back a little bit and consider human beings are naturally inquisitive, right? And so tell them they can't learn something and you watch.
Because it will spend time to give them an opportunity to explore something they're interested in. Maybe they want to learn to draw, or they've always wanted to write a short story or something. You will find once you give them the opportunity, they'll do some amazing things, and you can count them all as school.
Yeah. All learning counts, and you just got
Right.
just write that in your little daily log of things that
Right.
we were doing today. So I think a lot of new homeschoolers, no matter when they start, get caught up in the categories. We'll have to cover reading. Does this count as reading? Does this count as math? Does this count? So let's take an example of an activity. Maybe we just want to bake or cook or something. What are some of the things that we're going to encompass in like an activity like that?
Right. So with that, depending on the age of the child, there's of course reading, because you're having to read the recipe. It could be that you are incorporating math because you're measuring, but maybe you're going to have them half it or double it or triple it or whatever. Science could definitely come into account. You could even have them make one with an ingredient and without an ingredient and see how it affects it. Or maybe they didn't turn out well and you say, why didn't this turn out well? And so you go back and look and see what ingredients could improve it. So that was English, that was science, that was math. Social studies, you could do a history of baking. You could see who else maybe
where
made
the recipe comes from.
And different changes it's gone through over the years and so forth. Who made the first cookbook? Why do we have cookbooks? I mean, there's lots of stuff. You could go through a lot of tangents and rabbit holes just by making cookies. You could read a book that related. What is it? Give a mouse a cookie. You could start out with that book before you start cooking.
And then make cookies. Yeah.
You could take the cookies to a neighbor, and then there you are doing social skills and service project because you're helping out someone near you. I mean, there's lots of things you could do with it.
Right. Right. And so for my record keeping, I would just put we were baking cookies. You wouldn't necessarily have to justify all of those things in your own lesson plans because it's for you to for what you've accomplished, not necessarily trying to prove, well, but this is why we did this and this is why we did this. And prove it to somebody else. You know,
right. And I did a lot of unit studies. So mine might be, let's say it was a cookie unit study. And then I made list books that we read or a few things that we did, but I'm not doing math this, English this, science this. You're right. That you don't need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Unit studies are a good way to start too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you do want some kind of, outline of something to say, well, here's something that we can go and read about and learn about and just, have fun doing this activity unit together. And that's a good way to get started so that at least you have some sort of structure to your day. Day's wide open. What do you want to do? You never asked me what I want to do before. I don't know. But yeah, if you ask your kids what they want to do, that's always a good starting place too. Maybe they want to learn how to play guitar or crochet or something. So you can take a trip to the hobby store and pick up crochet hooks and yarn and talk about how much all this supplies cost. There's your math.
Exactly.
The prices for this hook and that.
Absolutely. Shopping is a wonderful math assignment. That's great.
Right. Make out your shopping list to go cook your cookie recipe too.
Oh, exactly. I left that out. They can make a nice and get ingredients.
Yeah. And you're going to find that those kind of things spark more ideas and more ideas. And you can find so many things online too, lessons on how to do stuff that I have a page on my site that's quick start curriculum though. So if you do want to follow a curriculum and you're like, well, I just feel like we need to just stay regimented at least in this subject and that one. Math is one that's real logical. So a lot of people just like that kind of structure for it. So that could be a good one to at least say, okay, so we're going to do a worksheet or a lesson in math and start working from there too.
Sure. Yeah. And there's a lot of free ones online too. So if you didn't want to spend money on a curriculum yet, I think you may have some linked on yours.
My quick start list is either free or low cost. One of the ones a lot of people like to start with is like Time for Learning. And that one you pay month to month. So you have access to it for a month. And then if you decide at the end of the month, I don't think we need to do this anymore. You can always skip and switch. That's the other thing that's great is you don't have to pick the very first thing and stick with it. You have the freedom and flexibility as you're going along to say what's working, what's not working. If you're bucking heads and fighting over stuff, why are we fighting? You were talking You were talking earlier about understanding what works for your child's personality too, kind of
Right,
tailoring what you're doing to suit
right,
them. So is
right.
it structured or unstructured?
Yeah, because I know I have one daughter who she had to literally have that book in her hand. She cannot learn with ebooks. She doesn't like it. Now she's in college, and the college switched to ebooks free, but we're paying for those books because she has to have that book in her hands. But my
Yeah,
other daughter, she loves ebooks because then she can highlight and reference and search
yeah,
really easy. So everybody's going to be different on what they prefer. So you want to make sure that you're picking a curriculum that's going to work towards their preferences so they can be successful.
yeah. And if you have a real social kind of a child, putting them just on an online program where they
Yeah,
read through and check these boxes, they're going to struggle. They don't
right.
work. I mean, there is some independent learning that comes with just age level too.
Right, right.
That's the other problem that I see with some of these online programs is they want to put, an emergent reader down and say, here, do all these subjects and read through this and check these
That's
boxes.
hard.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But knowing their personality and what works for them. Do they need to move a lot too? Giving them
Right.
scheduled breaks and time to move, or even the ability to move while they're trying to do the
Right.
lesson.
Yeah.
If you're reading to them, maybe they need to color or, hang
Yeah.
upside down off the couch or something.
See, and that was my daughters, and it drove me crazy because I'd be trying to do something and they're doing something else. And I'm like, what did I just say? There's no way you know what I just said. But they needed that to get it, and they could say verbatim everything I just said. So recognizing that is very important. And I know schools are doing better about letting them bounce and wiggle, but you now have a lot of freedom to let them bounce and wiggle. And I know I've had people say their favorite days are on the trampoline, and that's where they do their lessons because the kids are bouncing and wiggling and rolling, and they learn best that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yes. And then also the pace and the schedule of the time that you're spending per day is not going to be the same either. You don't have to do an hour of reading.
Mm-mm. No, our law says 180 days, but it does not define that day. So your day can be whatever works for you, and it's not going to be, or it doesn't have to be 8 to 3 like the public school. You may find that you're knocking this out in a couple of hours or less, depending on the grade, but that doesn't mean your child's not learning outside those hours, but your instruction hours are going to look a lot different. So don't be surprised if you finish up early. Don't feel like you have to have them doing stuff for, I don't know, how long you're in school, 6 hours a day or whatever it is.
Right. Well, you finished that work too quick. Let me throw some more on there.
Exactly. No, they're done.
You missed the whole benefit of why we did this. So you're done. Okay, good. Now go do it. Now what do you want to go do with the rest of your time?
Yeah. So don't be afraid to take breaks. I know that's one thing I've always done. They do a few subjects, and then maybe they have their second breakfast and do a few more subjects and have lunch, and then maybe a few after. You don't have to squeeze it all in. You could do it in the evenings. A lot of dads who are working during the day will come home and do lessons at night, which is pretty cool. Or the weekend, you can get in some hours. So, it doesn't have to look like school, and it shouldn't look like school. So if you're finding it looking too much like school, you may want to reassess what you're doing.
Yeah. So that kind of easy, relaxed works really well if you've got younger kids, especially elementary, because we have time.
Right.
And time is what they don't have when they're in school. So we want to give that back to them, that unstructured play time, especially time outside. It's good for their physical development and their emotional well-being, overall well-being. And so they should be spending a lot more time, moving and being outside. And
absolutely,
it all works together. But then especially the people who jump in at high school level, they start to have that panic that, am I going to do enough? There's always that worry. Am I doing enough at every level? But when you get to high school, it's like, okay, now what? But now we have to get serious, and we have to cover this and this and this and this and this. So what do you tell them?
So the big thing with high school is you can move at your students' pace, which you will find some students will actually move through a lot faster. And so if you've already got half a year in a subject and you've pulled them out, your student knows what they've already covered, and you can assess what they know or don't know. You don't have to start at the beginning of what you've chosen and go all the way through and cram it in 90 days. You could pick what you feel is the most important, or you could just do the stuff that they're not getting or moving from there. So if you look from curriculum to curriculum, you're going to find that they're all a little different. So it's not like there are these set specific stuff you have to do. Now, South Carolina does have the South Carolina Family Friendly Standards, which I could drop later in the bottom, but that can give you a good outline of what to cover if you're wanting to stick with the standards. But I mean, really, you don't have to do the entire book. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be cover to cover. So you can start where they left off. You could go back and review. And there's different ways people look at getting that credit, like either it's finishing the curriculum or a certain number of days in the curriculum. So you have those options as well.
They might have a syllabus too. All of so like if it was biology and they've covered plants and cells and whatever, then they can pick up and do whatever units they've still got left in that, or where were you in algebra?
Right. They know
where you left off on algebra. You don't need to go back to the beginning and start over. Pick up. You might want to review some just to make sure you've got it, because those skills do build on each other. I wasn't paying attention the first time I took algebra, and so by the end of the year I didn't know how to do it, and they let me take it again another year after that.
And some of the online curriculums have placement tests. So if that's something you believe in, you could have them take that placement test to see what they're getting and what they're not, and just focus on what they're not getting. That would be a good way to handle it as well.
Right. But yeah, you can always review, especially if they've missed days, depending on what they've accomplished, given their days off too. You can go back and recover what was missed and then move on from there, or just pick up where they left off. How about the grades? If they send you home with some grades on that report card, what do I do with that? In high school, we do want to put a grade on their final. Earlier, not so much. They don't necessarily need a grade for it, but in high school, we do start wanting to compile that transcript and educational resume, and that comes with a grade.
Right. So you are now the teacher, and you're the one who determines how you get the grade. So if you wanted to take the grade they had so far and average it in with the grades to the rest of the year, you could do that. If you felt like maybe they weren't getting stuff at the beginning of the year and you wanted to go back through stuff, and so those grades replace the grades from the school, that's fine. And you and I were talking how sometimes those grades are not necessarily what they know, but because they didn't get logged on or they didn't turn in a homework assignment that was just for credit or something. So you have the authority to determine how that grade is going to be established.
Only the grades that are in progress. If you get a transcript and put a final grade on there and it's failing, you don't get to go and change that. You can retake those courses and then that replaces that grade. But
absolutely.
but yeah, only the grades. I just wanted to clarify what the recording. What she said, what? We can just change
No. Final grades are final.
Yeah, no, that's gaming the whole system. That's not what homeschooling is about. We're trying to create equal opportunities for our students.
Exactly. Exactly. Because if you get a transcript from your association, they're going to ask for that high school transcript. So we're going to know, oh, nope, that's not the grade they had. That one was final. So.
Yeah. Yes. But going back to calculating your grade, because some of the policies I've seen when they send over the grades in progress, it's because the student didn't have their camera on or didn't turn the grade in on the day of, and they won't take any late work or whatever. Some of those kinds of grading policies have nothing to do with the student's abilities and accomplishments. And I just don't think that you need to take those kind of grades and say, well, they're starting with a 0 or a 50 or whatever. And now how are we ever going to make up that? I mean, that's just not in the best interest of the child. We want to put them on a path to success that accurately reflects their abilities and accomplishments. And so
Right.
that's the only reason that I think that you can kind of evaluate and say, look, this was not, they were intentionally sabotaging my child here. So with their policies, and it does happen sometimes, unfortunately.
Right.
So, but anyway, yeah, this was a lot of fun talking to you. Can you think of anything else that someone should need to know mid-year? I don't see anybody with comments here.
Okay. One thing I was thinking was just trying to find a place to get plugged in. I know a lot of associations have online support groups, and then there's lots of local ones. Like Kim helps run COLA, is that right? COLA City Homeschoolers.
Yeah.
And so if you're in the Columbia area, you can find a lot of field trips and opportunities to plug in with other homeschoolers, and you'll find classes. The zoos usually have homeschool classes, museums have homeschool classes. So make sure you find a place for your kids to plug in, and then also for moms, because you're going to want support from people who are going through the same thing you are. So if your association offers a support group, definitely join, because I know I enjoy watching my members connect and share resources and inspiration, and it makes a difference in your journey.
Absolutely. Isolation is not good for any of us. So I know as soon as you say to people out loud, I'm going to homeschool. I think we're thinking about homeschool. No doubt somebody's going to say, what about? And so, yeah, we kind of take that with a grain of salt, because there are social connections everywhere.
Too many, actually.
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities. Depending on where you are, some rural areas are a little bit harder to get connected. But it can be also just difficult to find the right kind of people that you click with. Nowadays, are they wearing masks? Are they not wearing masks? Those are always things. And then if you're interested and willing to do virtual and online meetups, or if you're really craving those in-person ones, those kind of things can matter too. So, and if you're specifically looking for something more religious, or it doesn't matter to you, or you specifically don't want something religious, those kinds of social connections all feed into how you're going to find your place, your people. Where do I belong?
Yes.
And get those connections that matter to you. And it's a struggle for all of us. It isn't special to homeschooling. We all have that.
Right. Because just because you're in school around other people doesn't mean that you're really connecting or feeling included. So,
Right.
It happens everywhere.
Right. It's part of our culture. And so Brené Brown says we all suffer from low-grade disconnect. And so it is kind of ironic to me that somehow homeschoolers get the special, what about? How are you ever going to get connected to people? Well, we all have it. It's not
right.
So, but yeah, you do have to try a little bit harder when you're
right, because you're in charge, so you have to make those opportunities and find those opportunities. So don't forget to do that. A lot of people forget they're the ones who have to come up with it, because they're used to the schools coming up with all of it. So definitely seek those opportunities out.
And there is some ebb and flow to it too. Sure. Some sort of natural introverted kind of people that are just like, really, do I have to go people today?
Right.
And so if you're that kind of an adult, you don't have to overdo it. Understand your own pace and ability for that. But also, I noticed a lot right now after the holidays that there's just kind of a lag and stuff. Like a lot of people are just like, really, I got to go out and do stuff. I feel like hibernating. We don't even have a strong winter here, but everybody's just a little bit like, let's hibernate a little bit longer. Not, and that's okay too. You don't have to go all the time either.
Exactly.
There's a balance. Finding that balance is the whole ball game here.
Exactly.
So yeah, but we've been doing it a long time. My kids have graduated already, so I'm still here just helping people get started. But I remember those days when the kids were young, and your kids are almost all done now too. So yeah. just being here to help and say, hey, look, if I can make it, you can too. So
Absolutely.
so yeah, so hopefully that has helped a bunch of people, either if they're trying to get started and switching to homeschooling now, or maybe if they know somebody who's all considering, they could share this little tutorial with them and kind of go over some of the things that, what do I do? I'm good.
Right.
How do I pick up and start from here? So yeah, there's a panic that I hope we've helped. So thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and talking today, and we will see everybody next time. If I can find where to turn this off.